Let's look at merging SQL code. Now, in most software merge tools, there's a logical way to merge their code together. Often we have code that touches one part of a file, such as a class or a method, and it can easily be merged with changes in another part, in a different method. The nature of many application coding languages with their methods and functions and separation makes it easy to handle merging automatically in many, many cases. Most tools, though, don't understand T-SQL, which inherently doesn't lend itself to merges very well. The structure of a query or a stored procedure is usually this completely separate object, and it's a separate file, and so it doesn't make it very easy to merge the changes in that same file and from different versions, especially for those tools that just don't understand the language. It's hard enough for humans to do it, but for automatic tools, it's very difficult for them to decide if they can perform a merge without logically altering the structure of the object. Now, we also have the transient nature of T-SQL, where we have create statements and alter statements that are needed at different points in time, even though it's the same object. So that means that we might be able to merge code at one point in time when we're doing work, but not another one. And if that isn't problematic enough, tables are a different issue, right? The code to alter the table is completely different than the code to create one. And so we don't repeat the old unchanged code, which is something we have in most other languages. So again, merges aren't easy to accomplish. There are a few tools that can help with merging code in general, but really the process of merging database code is almost always a manual process. Tools can make it easier, but the developer actually has to decide which changes to keep, which ones to discard, or how to reorder the changes inside of the file so that they make sense from a database perspective. Now, merging our code changes and our views, our stored procedures, and modules is much easier than tables. Certainly, we still sometimes have the create or alter issues, but we can often look at the code and decide which items from each side, from each version, can be merged together and not affect the logical flow. It's still challenging and it isn't automatic because typically everything inside of that stored procedure, everything inside of that module relates to the entire flow or the entire functionality that we're implementing. So we want to be careful about how we merge it together, but it certainly is easier because the code looks very similar. If we're working in the NoSQL world and we have JavaScript modules or Java modules, those are even easier because those are more similar to application code. If we're performing migration-based development, then often our merges aren't actually merging changes to a file because we should rarely change those files once they're committed, but they're often trying to decide what order the files need to be in or what order the changes need to be in. And in those cases, we're often doing a merge where we may have to rename those files to ensure that they execute in the correct order. Still could be cases where we need to actually merge the changes together inside of a single file. In those cases, make sure that each developer is aware of which changes are being merged and how. But in other cases, decide which ones logically need to occur before the other one and then just reorder them by naming them differently. The only advice I can give you when you're trying to implement a DevOps process is you have to merge often, very, very often. And that may mean you have to merge your changes back into the development branch, or you need to pull changes from other developers quite often so that you know what they're changing and you don't have very complex merges where you're trying to decode lots of logic. If you find conflicting changes, you want to discuss the issues immediately, find a resolution, and both of you make the same changes to your object so that your merges look alike. We'll look at a demo where we talk about merging a couple different kinds of SQL code, give you a feel for the complexities of how difficult SQL can be to merge code together.